They were newlyweds settling into a new city.
They wanted to start this brand new life.
They had one baby and then another.
Things are moving quickly.
They were all in.
Until she disappeared.
No one could get a hold of her.
Something doesn't feel right.
As she left on her own accord.
She did struggle with bouts of depression.
She was sometimes unpredictable.
I wish I could say this is unusual, but it's not.
Maybe she just needed some time away.
Or were her secrets to blame?
They hit it off right away.
She left out the details of her being married.
He was angry at her for lying.
Only time will tell.
After 2 years, a body washes ashore.
She had multiple stab wounds to her body.
It was extremely brutal.
The autopsy finds her death happened maybe 1 to 2 months prior.
But wait a minute. She's been missing for the last couple years.
October 14th, 2014. It's Tuesday afternoon in San Diego, a sunny Southern California metropolis of 3 million.
San Diego's called America's finest city. You have everything here. You have the beaches, you have mountains, you can ski, surf, play golf, all in the same day.
It's a big tourism hub, big military hub, so a lot of people are really drawn here.
It's just beautiful year-round. Everyone who comes to San Diego feels that essence of nice relaxation.
But 34-year-old Garrett Murphy is feeling anything but relaxed.
Hey, this is Liz. You know what to do.
Liz, it's me. Look, I'm not playing. Call me back.
He's desperately trying to get a hold of his friend, Elizabeth Sullivan.
She had a very close relationship with Garrett.
They talked on a regular basis.
So when Garrett didn't hear back from Elizabeth, it's almost like an instinctual, something doesn't feel right here.
And now, after 24 hours with no word from Elizabeth, Garrett is ready to get the police involved.
San Diego 911, what's your emergency?
Yes, I think my friend's in danger.
And he has good reason to be worried.
He knew that she struggled with mental health issues.
31-year-old Elizabeth Sullivan had first been diagnosed with depression as a teenager in Hampton, Virginia.
Liz had some mental health struggles and different things in her past that ailed her.
She had a difficult time managing her depression.
She had also been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder.
Borderline personality disorder is a condition that manifests in ways that look like emotional dysregulation, behavioral or cognitive dysregulation, chaos in relationships, and this unstable sense of self.
If it's not diagnosed appropriately, if it's not diagnosed early on, and if you don't seek the proper treatment, it could wreak havoc in anybody's life.
One of the challenges that she may have faced as a result of having this condition would be not feeling understood, not feeling seen, not feeling validated. And with that struggle, you can also find coping through substance use and the like.
But there was more to Liz than her battles with mental health.
She had this free spirit about her. She was creative and charismatic, and she really just had that energy that pulled you in. And that's such a beautiful thing to have, where you can connect and meet with different people.
And in 2009, Liz connected with Matthew Sullivan, a handsome young sailor at a nearby naval base in Norfolk.
He was a couple of years younger than Liz, but his kind, charming disposition attracted Liz right away.
When you meet someone for the first time and you're truly attracted to them, that's a beautiful thing.
Friends could see how much Liz's eyes lit up around Matt, and they loved seeing her truly happy for the first time.
But their budding romance soon ran into trouble.
He learned that he was being stationed out in San Diego.
What?
Yeah.
which meant he would be moving to the other side of the country.
I don't want you to leave, no.
Come with me.
The easy thing for them to do to stay together was to get married.
Seriously?
Yes.
Okay.
Will you?
Yes.
Will you really?
Yes.
Let's do it.
Here's a guy in uniform, in the military. He's gonna give you stability. He's gonna give you the life that you've always dreamed of. So she says yes.
In January of 2010, only a few weeks before being stationed in California, the couple married.
That allowed Liz to go with Matt all the way to San Diego to start this brand new life.
The couple quickly settled in the Liberty Station district.
In San Diego, Liberty Station is associated with the military lifestyle and also the family lifestyle.
That area is a smaller community, an affluent community, and people are known to help each other.
Military life, you're in a relationship, can mean long periods of time where you're not connected with a loved one, long periods of time where you have to adapt.
But Liz rose to the occasion.
She looked for opportunities to engage with new people, create new friends.
She's able to get out of the house and meet people and do stuff.
Hey, let's check this out.
She even got a part-time job.
It seemed like she had left the old, depressed Liz behind.
And before long, she had some exciting news.
Liz found out she was pregnant.
They had one baby, and then less than 2 years later, they have another baby.
So life is kind of moving quickly, and she's along for the ride.
It felt like she had finally found the purpose in life she had always longed for.
It's important to have a sense of grounding, a sense of knowing who you are.
But now, unable to get a hold of Liz for more than 24 hours, her friend Garrett Murphy has called the police.
He had some significant concerns about her well-being.
He knew all about her struggles with mental illness.
She confided in Garrett.
And he knew Liz was under additional stress lately.
Her husband Matt's mom and sister were coming to town and planning to stay with them.
She doesn't really get along with his family.
Liz was uncomfortable being with them for an extended amount of time.
In fact, Garrett says that's what actually got him worried in the first place.
Yeah, a few days ago she told me she was dreading their arrival.
Garrett was keen enough to know when something was wrong and something was off with Liz.
And you said she's married?
Yeah, I called her husband. He doesn't know where she is either.
31-year-old Elizabeth Sullivan had overcome a lifetime of mental health struggles to make a fresh start with her husband Matthew and their 2 daughters.
They were excited about creating a life and a family together.
But now, Liz's friend Garrett Murphy has just told police dispatch that no one knows where she is, not even her husband.
Garrett says he called Matt when he was unable to reach Liz.
He just said that she packed up a bag and took off.
Liz was the free spirit who was sometimes unpredictable, sometimes impulsive.
Garrett admits that it's not unusual for Liz to take off for a few days.
She goes through bouts of depression, and she decided to take breaks to kind of get herself back on track.
But according to Garrett, this time was different.
She usually gives people a heads up.
I just got a bad feeling about this.
He says that Liz could be a danger to herself.
Unfortunately, she did self-harm, and she would cut herself when her medication didn't work.
The cutting typically takes place when experiencing intense emotions.
And with her in-laws coming to visit, Liz was under a lot of stress.
The cutting is a way for them to manage the stress, to manage their emotions.
When investigators received the report, they reach out to Liz's husband, Matt.
I don't think law enforcement really sensed a level of urgency and a level of immediacy when they first made contact with Matt Sullivan.
After all, Liz does have a history of checking out for a few days.
They're already thinking, what can this guy tell us about his wife? Is he concerned?
When they drop by the Sullivans' home and speak to Matt, that doesn't appear to be the case.
I wish I could say this is unusual, but it's not.
He confirmed what Garrett told them about Liz's history of depression.
She's been doing a lot better since we moved to San Diego.
But he says that Liz had been dreading the upcoming weeks.
He told law enforcement, my mother's coming in town, my sister's coming in town, and Liz doesn't get along with my family.
When somebody is dealing with symptoms of depression, one of the hallmarks is isolation, a kind of withdrawal.
What time did she leave?
Last night, around 8 p.m.
And from what Matt could tell, she wasn't planning on coming right back.
When she left, there was a suitcase that she took.
She took her phone, she took her laptop.
But she didn't take her car.
Did someone pick her up then?
One of her friends, maybe. Until he called me, I figured it was Garrett.
And after hearing from Garrett, Matt says he'd reached out to a few of Liz's other friends.
None of them picked her up?
No. She could have called an Uber.
He says Liz certainly had the money for one.
Matt said that before she left, Liz took out all of the money from their joint checking account.
She drained it by over $1,000.
To detectives, it sounds like she's planning on being gone for a while.
Still, the detectives do ask Matt if they can have a look around.
Law enforcement is always looking at the husband as the person of interest.
But Matt doesn't act like someone with something to hide.
He was completely cooperative. He let them go in and search the house.
Her car's in the garage. It's right through that door.
Let's go check it out.
They looked inside his home. They looked inside his garage.
But there is no evidence of foul play.
Mind if we check the freezer?
Sure.
There was nothing. Everything seems normal.
Let us know if you hear anything.
I will.
So law enforcement is thinking, sure, mother-in-law's coming in town, sister-in-law's coming in town. She's not happy about it. Maybe she just needed some time away.
And when they get back to the station, they find more evidence that the whole thing is just a misunderstanding.
Detectives pull Liz's bank statement.
They could see that some transactions were posted or pending, like she was actively using her card.
To the detectives, it looks like they'll soon be able to close the book on Liz's alleged disappearance.
A lot of missing person cases. Sometimes they don't want to be found.
But that doesn't mean they won't be.
A few days after Liz's disappearance, she was spotted by an off-duty police officer at a local park.
San Diego detectives investigating the disappearance of Elizabeth Sullivan have just received a report that someone has recently spotted the 31-year-old mother of two.
There was a deputy sheriff who reported that he saw her approximately 3 days after she was reported missing. He was at Liberty Station near the Sullivan home, and he saw a young woman that matched the appearance of Elizabeth Sullivan.
And when he saw Liz's photo on the missing persons report, he contacted detectives.
The encounter he describes is concerning.
He reported that she was disheveled and seemed a little bit confused.
She was looking for her phone.
Are you okay? Miss, hello?
The deputy, who was off duty at the time, said he had offered the woman some assistance.
But she wasn't interested.
You can only provide as much assistance as someone would be willing to take.
The detectives believe the deputy's information to be credible.
The fact that Liz had apparently lost her phone could explain why no one had been able to reach her.
But the sighting is little comfort to Liz's friends and family.
Maybe she was suffering from some mental health episode that she needed help. A lot of times you'll see people reach their rock bottom when they're struggling with mental health illness and substance abuse.
However, with reason to believe that Liz is still in the area, friends and family step up their efforts to find her.
They cast a wide net.
Her pictures everywhere. On the news, you're seeing posters and flyers all over town.
The efforts produce a flurry of additional sightings.
Unfortunately, when police follow up on the sightings, they're unable to locate Liz.
It's also unclear if any of the sightings are genuine.
Misidentities happen all the time.
Despite the frustration, Liz's friends and family refuse to give up.
Her dad comes from Virginia to look for her. You got people raising money, people searching. It's on the news every day.
Even Liz's father and her husband Matt speak to the press. But as the days turn to weeks, the family struggles to keep hope alive.
That November, Matt tells People magazine that he is running on fumes.
And with the case gaining national attention, detectives are starting to think someone doesn't want Liz to be found.
The question is whether that's Liz herself, or is someone trying to make it look like she walked out on her life.
I can't imagine someone who loves their children, who is a good mother, would intentionally be away from them for weeks just for the sake of being away and needing some time to themselves. It just didn't add up.
But if someone was trying to make it look like Liz had walked away, who was it?
Matt wasn't acting suspiciously.
Matt was cooperative. He was answering all of the police's questions. He allowed them to come into his home to do any types of searches.
However, there was another possibility. Liz's friend, Garrett Murphy.
Maybe Garrett's the person who always wanted Liz but couldn't have her because she was married and he's been friend zoned.
And Matt did say he assumed it was Garrett who had picked Liz up the night she disappeared.
Anytime law enforcement is conducting an investigation, especially when it comes to a missing person, they have to explore all options. That is their job.
The detectives ask Garrett to come in and answer a few questions.
The night Liz went missing, where were you?
At home. Why?
As the questions continue, he starts putting two and two together.
He was extremely upset that he was looked at as a potential person of interest.
Wait, you seriously think I did something to her? She was my best friend.
He's thinking, she's one of my best friends. I'm the one who was concerned about her and actually reported her missing.
According to Garrett, his relationship with Liz is purely platonic.
They really cared for one another. He had an extreme level of empathy for her.
Talk to each other about anything. No judgment.
Whatever Liz was going through, he always had an open door for her to walk through if she needed him.
He kind of just became a safety net for her. She was able to share all of her past woes, her mental health issues.
Garrett Murphy was her true confidant, the person that she turned to with her deepest and darkest secret, that she engaged in self-harm.
She was honest about self-cutting. And in order to tell someone your deepest, darkest secrets, you have to trust him.
In fact, Garrett says that Liz had told him an even darker secret.
Liz was having a lot of trouble in her marriage.
She's at the end of her rope.
And he fears she may be suicidal.
Elizabeth Sullivan's friend Garrett Murphy has revealed to the detectives investigating her disappearance that the 31-year-old mother of two was having marital issues that he fears could have caused her to harm herself.
She struggled with depression and engaged in self-harm by cutting herself.
And around the time that she went missing, she had told him about going too far with the cutting.
He says that she had cut herself too deep.
She had bandages on her arm.
She knew her limits. She knew her boundaries. She knew she did a little bit too much here.
But now Garrett worries she'd taken it even further.
Just hope she didn't go too far.
Like suicide?
I don't know.
Garrett felt helpless in that situation.
She could be hurt somewhere. What if the wound didn't heal properly? What if she's bleeding somewhere? He was so concerned.
But that wasn't the only concerning statement Garrett had made. Detectives also need to know more about the state of Liz and Matthew's marriage.
Liz truly trusted Garrett. She was open and transparent about some of the negative aspects of her marriage.
She said she rushed into it.
They didn't know each other that well. They met, got married right away because he was being assigned to San Diego. So I think there wasn't a lot of time to process who she was, who he was, what they both needed out of a relationship.
Then, between moving to the West Coast and becoming a mother, Liz never had time to adjust.
Being a mom for the first time, being a wife for the first time, living in a new environment for the first time. It was a lot of spinning plates, a lot of changes that she had to adjust to and adjust really quick.
Getting married, having children. These seemingly positive things, but there's such a thing as positive stress as well. And they are stressors nonetheless.
According to Garrett, that led to tension between Matt and Liz.
Military life is not easy. When you're married, getting to know each other, you have a young family, young children involved, it can be extremely, extremely difficult. And it can lay the groundwork for discord and misunderstanding in a relationship.
The rocky relationship starts to fester and grow and get worse.
And according to Garrett, Matt's mother and sister's upcoming visit may have pushed Liz past the breaking point.
Liz is not having it. She doesn't feel comfortable. Doesn't sound like she had a great relationship with her in-laws. So she is not feeling good about this at all. And again, she's already kind of on the outs with Matt at this point.
Garrett says he'd urged Liz to leave Matt.
This relationship was deteriorating right before his eyes.
But he says that Liz was reluctant.
Being that Matt was the primary breadwinner, she didn't necessarily have the financial resources.
She was heavily dependent on her husband.
But according to Garrett, that hadn't stopped Liz from seeking an escape.
She decided to get on dating apps.
I think she probably thought this relationship is over.
Did she meet anyone?
There was this guy named Victor.
She's been seeing Victor for a few weeks.
Anytime you have a wife that's now dating other persons, that's huge because the other person now could be a suspect.
Or could that provide a relatively innocent explanation for her disappearance?
Let it be off.
Was this a situation where Liz Sullivan thought, you know what, I'm going to move on with my life and I'm going to start a new life with Victor?
Hoping to track down Liz's alleged boyfriend, the detectives turned to the dating app.
They used a subpoena to get access to her chat history.
She did develop this relationship with one person that we know of, Victor, who seemed to hit it off with her fairly quickly and easy.
But Liz hadn't been entirely upfront with her new suitor.
There were some missing pieces to the story. She definitely said that she was a mother and she had children, but she left out the details of her being married.
She can't really tell him everything because it's gonna scare him away.
Liz didn't tell him, but shortly before she disappeared, Victor somehow learned the truth.
And based on what they can see in the chat history, Victor was angry at her for lying to him.
Who knows? Maybe he doesn't want it out there that he was involved with a married woman, because once he found out that she was married, they kind of broke things off.
So much for Liz running off with Victor.
But could Victor still be responsible for her disappearance?
He's already angry about the lies. Maybe there was a confrontation and things just got out of hand.
Once Victor Kennedy came into the picture, he was going to be a wealth of information for the investigators, or at least that's what they thought.
But he's not interested in answering any questions about Liz.
He was not as cooperative as they had hoped he would be.
In fact, he told detectives to talk to his lawyer.
Detectives investigating the disappearance of Elizabeth Sullivan have learned that she'd been having an affair with a man named Victor Kennedy.
When the detectives tried to contact Victor, he told them to talk to his attorney.
Obviously, everyone has the right to have an attorney, but it may look suspicious.
Once it became clear that Victor Kennedy was not going to cooperate, law enforcement was thinking, well, is it because you had something to do with this?
With Victor unwilling to talk, the detectives run a background check.
What does he have to hide?
Does he have any restraining orders, any type of domestic violence in his past?
But when the background check comes up clean, the detectives subpoena Victor's cell phone records.
Comparing the text with the messages they found earlier on the dating app, it appears Victor stopped communicating with Liz when they broke up.
But the detectives do find something intriguing.
Matt had been texting Victor.
He's saying things like, hey, I see that you had a good chat with her.
It was as if Matt wanted Victor to know, I know you guys are talking. It was a very strange, almost stalkerish vibe.
Matt was definitely trying to assert some form of control over the situation.
He was saying things like, well, I'm going to cut her off financially, and she's your problem now.
Matt knowing about Liz's affair raises a huge red flag for the detectives.
The fact that he doesn't say this from the get-go causes them to be a little bit more suspicious. Maybe this is the case of a disgruntled husband who is angry once he learns about an affair.
Did a love triangle and a jealous husband lead to Liz's disappearance? Detectives bring Matt in and ask him about the affair and his texts to Victor.
Did you threaten Victor?
Honestly, I was just messing with him.
He painted this picture that he was not concerned at all.
And he admits that their marriage wasn't what it had been.
They were living separate lives.
They want to be able to keep the family intact for the children and come across as we're fine.
I wasn't too concerned about him and Liz. I mean, we were fine.
But you weren't fine.
No.
Like heading for a divorce?
It had come up.
In fact, Matt says that's one reason his mom and sister were coming to stay with the couple.
Matt wants to bring his family around to help take care of the kids.
We just needed time to sort things out.
Matt said the trouble in the marriage is exactly why he wasn't too surprised when Liz packed a bag and left.
He painted this picture of Liz as this person who was unstable, who cheated on him, who didn't really care about the children.
If they were having some significant major problems in their marriage, they must be wondering, Matt, why wasn't this brought to my attention before?
When the detectives start digging into the couple's financial records, some of what they find appears to back up Matt's claim.
They discover what Liz did with the $1,000 that she took out of their joint account.
Liz had retained an attorney.
But as they dig deeper, they come to a disturbing realization.
Earlier, when they looked at her credit card activity, it looked like she was still using her card. But looking back, that doesn't appear to be the case.
Blurring the lines was when they were purchased versus when it was posted.
And when the detectives look at Matt's account, they find something even more disturbing.
The day that she was reported missing, Matt went to a local hardware store to get carpet cleaner, and he bought industrial-sized plastic wrap.
And it's not hard for the detectives to guess why.
Finding out about the affair, him finding out that she drained the account because she wanted to hire a divorce lawyer, their theory was that that's when he just lost it.
But a theory is a far cry from a murder conviction.
In the criminal justice system, the prosecutor has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that someone is guilty.
They have no smoking gun. They don't even have a body.
It's going to be really challenging to convince a jury that something has happened, especially with someone like Liz, who was known to run away. And then you have other people coming in and saying, oh, we may have saw her.
At this juncture, I don't think that there's enough evidence for law enforcement to arrest him or for the prosecutors to move forward with the case.
As a result, the investigation stalls for the next 2 years.
And during those 2 years, there's no sign of Liz.
I can only imagine the pain that Liz Sullivan's family was experiencing because at that point in time, there's no closure.
Praying every day, like, just give us something, give us a clue.
But there was one person who didn't seem all that bothered by Liz's continued absence. Her husband, Matt.
He's moved on. He's got a new girlfriend, living in his house. He's got a new baby. For those who think he's guilty, Matt had essentially gotten away with murder.
But in October of 2016, just when it's looking as if the 2-year-old mystery of Liz's disappearance will remain unsolved, an off-duty U.S. Marshal is walking with his dog along the path that rings San Diego Bay.
It's about a mile from Matt and Liz's house.
And glancing down at the rocks lining the shore, he spots something.
Initially, he thought it was a Halloween prank.
But as he gets closer, the marshal realizes it's no prank.
That's definitely a body.
2 years after the disappearance of 31-year-old Elizabeth Sullivan, San Diego detectives have just received a notification that a body has washed up on shore not far from the Sullivans' home in Liberty Station.
When something like this happens, when a body washes ashore, it rattles everybody.
Well, the news media is back, and it's like, who is it? Who is this person? Who could it be?
The body was so decomposed that they weren't able to identify who that person was, and they had to resort to dental records.
And then, of course, they ID the body. It's Elizabeth Sullivan.
The medical examiner rules her death a homicide.
The coroner's office can actually see a broken jaw and some blunt trauma that they identified.
The autopsy also finds multiple stab wounds.
Here, let me show you guys the body.
And despite Liz's history of cutting, they don't appear to be self-inflicted.
They were fatal stab wounds, a very personal and close-up attack.
However, the mystery of Liz's disappearance is far from solved.
The autopsy findings resulted in probably one of the most bizarre turns of the case.
And based on the level of decomp, she's been dead 2 months max.
The findings potentially change everything the detectives know about the case.
If she just died, where's she been for the last 2 years?
Does that mean Matt had nothing to do with her death?
Once the autopsy confirms that the body is Liz, the detectives attempt to contact her husband, Matt. But when they knock on his door, they're met with a surprise.
Excuse me, are you looking for someone?
Yes, ma'am. Matthew Sullivan?
Matthew had actually relocated out of San Diego.
They moved. They had trucks out here just the other day.
Is this a coincidence?
The detectives don't think so.
It's like, if you're thinking, I gotta move and I know people are gonna search this property, so I gotta get rid of this body.
And with Matt now out of the house he shared with Liz, detectives waste no time gaining access to it.
When law enforcement first went to Matt Sullivan and when he cooperated, they looked inside his home and they didn't suspect anything was wrong at the time. But when they go back to search his home, they conduct a more comprehensive search.
At that point in time, detectives are doing an ultra-fine comb through of the house.
They search from top to bottom, starting in the attic.
And what do they find? They find a military-style knife that was hidden in the insulation in the attic.
Could it be the murder weapon?
Keep in mind, the knife wasn't just in plain view, it was hidden in the insulation.
From the attic, the detectives move to the master bedroom.
Everything seems fine until they bring out the luminol.
Luminol is a chemical that under black light reacts to traces of blood. even blood that's been cleaned up and that's no longer visible to the naked eye.
They found blood in the master bedroom. They found blood in their bathroom, which tells us that there was a major fight that occurred in those areas.
And then when they lift up the rug, the blood stain was so saturated that it actually went through the rug and on the floor.
The loss of blood there was enormous. So even though he tried to clean the scene up, the luminol was able to pick it up.
But it wasn't until the detectives brought in a cadaver dog that they solved the mystery of where Liz had been for the past 2 years.
They said they alerted to the freezer. She had to be in here.
The cadaver dog alerts to them that there's evidence of a dead body that was in the freezer.
Which makes sense as to why she was possibly deemed to only be dead a couple of months.
Since the police looked in the freezer when she first went missing and didn't find anything, it's unclear exactly when Matt could have put her in there.
However, after the detectives sent a sample of the blood-soaked flooring from the couple's bedroom off to the crime lab, they have little doubt that Matt killed her.
Lo and behold, it matches the DNA of Liz Sullivan.
Once the police knew that Matthew most likely did this, they went and brought him right back to San Diego.
Arrested on murder charges, when Matthew goes on trial in February of 2020, prosecutors argue that Matt, already irate about his wife's affair, went over the edge when he learned she'd retained a divorce attorney.
We know that she started the process, and we know that she transferred the funds to start the process of distancing herself and divorcing herself from Matt.
That was the final straw.
According to the prosecution's theory, sometime on the evening of October 13th, Matt confronted Liz about her plans.
That money you took out of the account, I know what it was for. It's over, Matt!
At some point, you say, I can't do this anymore. At some point, I have to seek it out. And Liz sought that out. The out was divorcing herself from Matt.
But the prosecutors believe Matt opted to go another route.
It's not working, Matt! Man, what are you doing?
He attacked her. He snapped and stabbed her 5 times.
The next day, he wrapped her in plastic and hid her body and the knife in the attic and tried to clean the carpet to cover his tracks.
And after he cleaned up the bloody scene in their bedroom, he invited detectives inside their house to look around. And then he played the part of a poor put-upon husband with an unstable, mentally ill wife.
I wish I could say this is unusual, but it's not.
Then, once the coast was clear, he moved the body from the attic to the freezer.
The question was posed to the medical examiner, if this body had been frozen for the last 2 years, would that alter your findings of the body being a month or 2 old? And the answer was yes.
It's more than enough to convince the jury.
The jury came back guilty on second-degree murder.
In order to have first-degree murder, the prosecution would have had to have proven that this was premeditated, that he really wanted to kill her. And there was no proof of that.
It seems like it was a crime of passion.
The judge sentences Matt to life in prison with the possibility of parole in 16 years.
It's disappointing that he was only sentenced to 16 years to life. Matthew lied from the start about what happened to Liz. He let her.
Anthony was a loving person, had a big heart.
Anthony was very charismatic. He was the type of person that people gravitated to. When I saw him coming through the door, I said, "Are you homicide?" He said yes. And then he told me that Anthony was gone. I felt like my skin wasn't touching me anywhere. I have never in my life felt that type of agony ever.
This person was a target. This wasn't a random act of violence.
There were 2 separate shooters shooting from the front and one from the back.
Police get another call about a fatal shooting, this time on the southeast side of town.
I could see my son. I knew it was him.
We need to look at that angle, that these could be related.
The never-ending cycle of revenge.
It might be sweet in the moment, but it leads to having to look over your shoulder for the rest of your life.
As the second biggest city in Texas, San Antonio encompasses diversity, both in its people and its neighborhoods.
San Antonio is built on a loop. It's a city that is in a big circle, and in that circle, there are siloed communities.
The northwest side of San Antonio, specifically close to the medical center area, is generally a quiet area. The med center is a good area to live in. There's also a university close by, so there's, college students that live there.
It's just before 2 a.m. on January 7th, 2020, when the San Antonio Police Department is alerted to a situation in the parking lot of an apartment complex on the northwest side.
We did receive 911 calls from residents about a shooting. Reports where there were several shots fired.
Officers respond.
They did find a victim in the parking lot who had suffered apparent gunshot wounds.
Bystanders are attempting first aid on the young male. But damage is too severe.
Officers find that he is dead on arrival. There's nothing that can be done to save him.
Soon, homicide detectives arrive.
One thing that really stuck out to me was the fact that he had socks on his feet, but he didn't have shoes on. This told me that he probably lived in the apartment complex.
Once the medical examiner arrives, they're able to search through the victim's pockets to see if he happens to have any sort of identification on him, but unfortunately, he didn't.
A bystander speaks up, claiming to have seen the victim frequently coming and going from one of the apartments.
One of the witnesses pointed out they believed it was his vehicle. And so we ran the registration on that and came up with the name Anthony Saint.
Born in 1989, Anthony's early years were spent on the move.
Anthony was born at Maxwell Air Force Base. He was my oldest son when I was an airman in the Air Force. I got orders to another base. I was stationed in England, Upper Heyford, England, and we moved there where we lived for about 1.5 years. After that, I separated from the military and then moved to San Antonio, Texas.
Eventually, Anthony's mother gave birth to 2 more sons.
Anthony, he had 2 little brothers, loved them to death. He was definitely like that father figure.
Anthony was a very, very active child. I learned very early on that he was full of energy. He loved football, and as he got older in high school, he became a high school football star. He was a running back, and he broke records.
He was a little more athletic than most of the guys at his school. Like they looked up to him and expected big plays from him, and he delivered that.
Anthony's hopes and dreams in high school was to be a football player. He wanted to play professionally. When he came to the awareness that he had to go to college and do well in college in order to do that, I feel like his dreams shifted to music and entertainment. Anthony wanted to be a rapper. He wanted to do other, things in the entertainment industry. And Patrick was the one who kind of stepped out there and learned how the business worked and then tried to draw his friends, Anthony included, into the pattern that was going to work for what they were trying to accomplish. So Patrick was his manager.
I believe that music was a way of him to stay connected to Chris. I believe that music was a way for him to express himself, his emotions, his feelings, what he was going through. A lot of the music that he wrote was based off of real life situations that he was experiencing.
Anthony came up with the idea that he wanted to do a song with the two of us. He wanted to rap and then wanted me to sing. So he wrote the lyrics, and then I just came up with a hook to it and sang behind it. We went to a studio in town where we put down the very first recording. He was over the hills, excited to be in the studio with me.
The song is actually called Mama. That song was real near and dear to his heart. He really was passionate about having a song with his mom on there singing.
Anthony's talent was clear, but his biggest fans would always be his family.
His two little brothers copied him because he had the braids first, and then he ended up getting dreads, and then they got the dreads. But yeah, he wanted to see them succeed. He wanted to, when he learned things, he wanted to pass it down to them. His mama, that was his baby. He loved her more than anything on this earth.
My relationship with Anthony was a day-to-day. If I didn't talk to him every day, I spoke to him every other day. We were in constant communication about whatever was going on in his life at that particular time. And I am the type of mom that, I want to make sure that my kids are okay.
But on the evening of January 7th, 2020, police have tentatively identified Anthony as the victim of a shooting.
I could see that the victim had been shot multiple times. I couldn't tell where exactly. And we can't move the victims around. We have to wait for the medical examiner's investigator to get there.
Investigators hope one of the onlookers saw what happened.
Officers found that they were not eyewitnesses, but were ear witnesses to the incident. These individuals reported hearing multiple gunshots and then hearing screeching tires that were leading away from the apartment complex.
For police, that scene was really difficult to work. It's pretty dark, so the police were relying very heavily on their own lighting techniques by the police car lights.
They're looking for anything that could potentially lead them to find out what happened to this victim.
There was a cell phone near the victim. That being there told me that was probably the victim's cell phone. We weren't able to get into the cell phone. It was locked. So we didn't have a code, an access code or passcode to get into it.
And this could be something that ends up being a huge piece of evidence.
I look at the rest of the scene and I notice the shell casings that are laying about. There were about 9 markers locating shell casings. So there were 9 shell casings near the victim's body.
And they were all close to the body, suggesting that they were close range.
They found several shell casings on his body and around the body, really emphasizing the amount of firepower.
The police had a lot of work to do to figure out what exactly had happened here.
This wasn't a random act of violence.
On January 7th, 2020, San Antonio investigators are looking into the shooting death of Anthony Sanks on the city's northwest side. After hours of working the scene in the dark, investigators head back to the station.
When we got back to our office, we did some research on the registration. We're able to get a photograph of the registered owner of one of the vehicles, and it did look like the victim at the scene. So around 4 or 5 hours after we've released the scene, we go back, because now we have daylight hours. We go back to look for any cameras in the area. We do notice that there are some around the office, which is located at an entry-exit point for the apartment complex. We had to wait for employees to show up. When they did show up, they confirmed they did have recorded footage of the area in front of the office building, which would show us vehicles coming and going. We were able to look at the footage. We did notice one vehicle come in, a small dark-colored SUV, and we were able to see it actually leave after the shooting. Couldn't get a license plate, couldn't see the people inside. It was a black Jeep Compass. A hubcap was missing off one of the tires, and then it had a broken taillight on the back.
They knew now that that vehicle was at the apartment complex at the time of the shooting. They were able to match up the time codes and know that that was most likely the suspect vehicle at that point.
When the officers were getting the surveillance video, they were also able to inquire as to the residents of the apartment that the witness has identified as seeing the victim going in and out of.
We knocked. The occupant did answer. It was a young female. She invited us in. She explained to us that she did know Mr. Sanks and that she was allowing him to stay there. She explained that she was a lifelong friend of his. The night before, she had gone out with some friends, did some drinking, came home around 12:40 a.m. She had bought some food.
The last time that she had seen the victim, he was still playing video games in the living room.
She explained that she's a very heavy sleeper, said she didn't hear anything as far as gunshots. She didn't know he was even gone until we knocked on the door and woke her up.
The roommate tells investigators that she knows Anthony's mother.
She currently was working with Mr. Sanks' mother at her hair salon, and she gave us that information where that was located. And she told us that his mother would actually be there at that point, opening up for the day. We left the apartment complex and we wanted to get to her as soon as we could. We wanted her to know as soon as possible what happened.
When I saw him coming through the door, I said, "Are you homicide?" He said, "Yes." I said, "I just need you to say it." He said, "I need you to sit down." I said, "No, I need you to say it." And then he told me that Anthony was gone. At that point, I felt like my skin wasn't touching me anywhere. I have never in my life felt that type of agony ever.
The toughest part of this job is notifying a family when they've lost a loved one. You could automatically tell the love lost for this woman.
I did not know of anyone who would want to gun my son down in a parking lot in the middle of the night. I didn't know of anyone that would want to do this.
She didn't know of any problems he would have had with anyone, but we really needed more help. We told her we did have his phone, or we believed we had his phone, and we asked her if she knew the passcode for it.
We gave him the code to the phone, and that was it. And I asked him, "Please, I need you to find out who did this to my son." And he says, "I'm gonna do my very best."
Getting into the cell phone that we believed was Mr. Sanks' phone was vital. We knew that he left that apartment and went out in the parking lot. We knew he didn't have shoes on, so he was probably going out there to meet someone he knew. That phone was probably going to tell us who he was communicating with and why he walked out in the parking lot.
Investigators checked the last activity on the phone.
They're able to locate on Facebook Messenger that the victim was going to meet someone right before he was murdered. And they were able to get that Facebook Messenger handle. There was a handle NHC Bobo that the victim was communicating with.
We knew that person came over. We knew they were communicating with Mr. Sanks. and we knew Mr. Sanks went out there to meet NHC Bobo in the parking lot. NHC Bobo was going to be someone we needed to find.
Detectives investigating the death of Anthony Sanks get their first break when they access phone messages sent to Anthony moments before he was gunned down.
Police now realize that they need to locate whoever this NHC Bobo is because, they were in direct communication with Anthony almost right before he was murdered.
Hopeful to uncover NHC Bobo's true identity, investigators put the word out.
Homicide detectives rely on officers that are working undercover, working in specific units to be able to assist them in determining the identity of individuals that have nicknames.
While they wait to see if any leads turn up, detectives attend Anthony's autopsy.
I went to the Bexar County Medical Examiner's office. This case was very complex because he had multiple gunshot wounds, and they were coming from different directions.
The medical examiner was able to identify 10 gunshot wounds. In this case, the victim was shot several times, 2 times, I believe, in the back, and then 8 entrance wounds in the front. It was safe to assume that there were 2 separate shooters.
The 2 shooters, the multiple gunshot wounds, and the fact that Anthony was lured to the parking lot all support a new theory.
This wasn't a random act of violence. We had to believe this was definitely a targeted hit or a targeted murder.
As far as who targeted Anthony, that remains a mystery.
We still didn't know who NHC Bobo was. So on January 14th, about a week after Mr. Sanks is murdered, I'm contacted by one of our detectives that works in an undercover capacity, works on the street. He had an informant come forward to him who had information about the murder of Mr. Sanks. He told me that this informant explained to him that NHC Bobo is an individual by the name of John Anthony Sheringhausen. We also found that there were text messages on Mr. Sanks' phone from John Sheringhausen. So we knew we had the right guy communicating with Mr. Sanks. The detective also gave me more information about some things that happened which might have been the reason why the murder happened.
The detective explains there was a beef between John Sheringhausen, Anthony Sanks, and a third man, Andrew Salazar.
Supposedly, Anthony Sanks' murder stemmed from a previous incident that had happened in June 2019. Andrew Salazar's home had gotten shot up in a drive-by shooting down on the south side of town. According to rumors on the street, Sheringhausen supposedly was the one who had committed that drive-by shooting.
So we looked into the shooting that occurred at Andrew Salazar's house in June of 2019. He was not present when the shooting happened. His family was there.
We just got home. It was just me, my wife, and my granddaughter. I heard popping noise, but I really didn't know they were shooting. My wife, she heard it louder than I did. She told me, hey, they shot at the house. I went outside and I looked. This probably was like a 12 or 13 rounds probably. And I got scared. We had to move out real quick, so we moved out within a month.
They didn't see who did it. They couldn't say who did it. We didn't know, if they were truly the targeted people or if it was a random thing that maybe caught in the crossfire or someone picked the wrong house to shoot up.
Investigators hope that one man might be able to shed light on the incident.
Talking to John Sheringhausen was my big goal. Find out what he knew, what information he had. He had a lot of things to explain.
Investigators obtain a warrant for Sheringhausen's arrest, but he is nowhere to be found.
We'll solicit the assistance from the U.S. Marshal Service. We had people from those agencies helping us look for John Sheringhausen.
Then, just 2 weeks after Anthony Sanks' death, more bloodshed.
So officers are dispatched to a 911 call where neighbors in the area heard multiple gunshots and saw two males running from a vehicle that was still at the location, and they could see an individual slumped over the steering wheel.
Officers respond, and they were able to then establish that the victim was Andrew Salazar.
Just 2 weeks after Anthony Sanks was shot 10 times in a parking lot, San Antonio police get word another man allegedly connected to the case has just been gunned down. Detectives are processing the scene where Andrew Salazar was shot dead inside his truck.
There was a bystander among the people who were there who, by chance, was going to meet up with the victim. The bystander identified the truck as the car that Andrew Salazar frequently drove. And that's how police were able to then run the plates and identify the next of kin.
His girlfriend called my wife and told her, have you talked to Andrew? And my wife told him no. I goes, there was a shooting. She gives the address, and I kept trying to call him on the phone, and he wasn't answering. It was a pretty long ride going out there. I saw the truck. I used to work for the police department, so one of the officers recognized me there. And so they let me kind of go closer than I was supposed to. I could see my son. I knew it was him.
Andrew Salazar was born on March 22, 1991 in Fort Worth, Texas. The Salazar family relocated to San Antonio when Anthony was 3. That's where Anthony grew up, the third of 5 children.
They were all a year apart, but they were just siblings. They would get along with each other, and sometimes they would fight with each other. We're a real close-knit family.
Andrew was still a teenager himself when he started his own family.
Him and his girlfriend were real young. They were like close to 17, I think, 17, 16. At that time, they were living with us when she was pregnant. So they did live with us for pretty much probably 2 years.
Despite his youth, Andrew was a devoted father who wanted to provide for his son.
Every school function he would go to, whenever they had the field trips, he would go to the field trips. He would be organizing all his birthday parties. His goal was to establish a business, either doing any kind of, remodeling or construction or anything like that. I mean, he had a lot of endeavors. He believed in doing a lot of things, but I guess he never had a chance to do it.
On January 22nd, 2020, Andrew's dreams are cut short when he's gunned down inside his truck.
Me and my wife were there, and we were crying. We called my kids. My other 2 sons got there too.
As Andrew's family attempts to process the sudden loss, detectives get to work.
There's a witness identified who she was coming home from work. And when she arrives at her house, she notices this pickup truck stopped in front of her home.
She sees brake lights first, then flashers. Then the next thing she hears is gunshots. And she observes 2 males running from the car with hoodies, both running in a northern direction.
Word of Andrew's death reaches Detective Size, who has been working the shooting death of Anthony Sanks for the past 2 weeks.
When I found out who the victim was, Andrew Salazar, I contacted that detective and told him, hey, I believe your case is going to be related to my case involving the murder of Anthony Sanks.
With Andrew Salazar dead, investigators are more eager than ever to speak with John Scheringhausen. On February 10th, 16 days after the second murder, investigators catch a break.
John Scheringhausen was found. He was with a friend. They stopped him in a vehicle. He did speak with me. We were focused on the Anthony Sanks murder. He did say he knew who Sanks was, but denied knowing anything about the shooting as far as who did it and how. And then he's confronted with some of the evidence that we have. But we knew he was communicating with him. He knew he was kind of cornered and he had to explain his way out. So he tried.
Sheringhausen says that Andrew Salazar believed Anthony Sanks was responsible for the drive-by. And he was right.
He said that he actually did that shooting under the direction of Anthony Sanks, and that Andrew Salazar found out that it was him and confronted him about it.
Andrew hit him with a threat.
Sheringhausen explained that Andrew Salazar told him, "You will help me get back at Anthony Sanks, and if you don't, then I'll kill you."
But Sheringhausen says he didn't accompany Andrew Salazar to kill Anthony Sanks. Instead, he claims another man took on that role.
He said that we needed to get Anthony Jiggy Nash.
Sheringhausen claims his role was limited to loaning the men his phone so they could use it to lure Anthony Sanks outside.
Anthony Sanks was his good friend. He tells detectives he was forced by Andrew Salazar to give over his phone, and that Andrew Salazar had been the one that had messaged the victim, setting the victim up to be murdered, that it wasn't him. He tells detectives that Anthony Nash and Andrew Salazar took his phone and left in Anthony Nash's vehicle to go over and set Anthony Sanks up to be murdered.
I asked him, "Can you give me some more specific detail about the vehicle?" And he stops and thinks, and he says, "Well, yeah, it had a broken taillight, the broken driver's side taillight." When he said it was a black Jeep Compass, we were able to take the information he gave, compare it to the video. It was a Jeep, just like he was explaining to us.
Detectives start to look a little bit more into Anthony Nash. They do discover that his vehicle registration matches the vehicle that they saw on surveillance leaving the apartment complex the night of Anthony Sanks' murder. They realize some of the things that Sheringhausen is telling them is actually true.
John Sheringhausen claims he was not there when Anthony Nash and Andrew Salazar gunned Anthony Sanks down. But investigators aren't so sure he is being honest about his role.
He gave very detailed information about what happened when they got there. That Sanks came out, and that Nash got out and started shooting him, and that Drew came around and also shot Anthony Sanks, but claiming he wasn't there. To have that kind of detail, we didn't think people involved would tell him in that good of detail what happened. So we knew that he was there.
Investigators confront him. Instead of coming clean, Sheringhausen changes the subject.
Knowing that he was getting really deeper and deeper cornered as far as Anthony Sanks' murder, I think he tried to help himself by providing information about Andrew Salazar's murder.
The information he gives the detectives about that is that Anthony Nash, who he called Jiggy, got really nervous after Anthony Sanks' murder and believed that Andrew Salazar was setting him up to turn him into the police. And so Anthony Nash got concerned about this and that he was the one who killed Andrew Salazar.
He again denied that he was there. He claimed that Andrew was murdered by Anthony Nash. Nash pulled a gun out and shot Salazar in the truck. And then fled after that.
Detectives make sure Sheringhausen knows they aren't buying his claims of innocence.
To have that kind of detail, we knew that he was there, he was in that Jeep. After interviewing John Sheringhausen, he was told that he was under arrest for the murder of Anthony Sanks.
Investigators attempt to track down Anthony Nash.
they were unable to locate him. They spoke with his father, who said that soon after these murders that he had been in a mental institution. And after the hospitalization had gone to Louisiana.
We didn't know where he was. We had him in the system. We had a bolo that we needed to speak to him.
Finally, after over a year of looking, investigators get word that Anthony Nash is back in San Antonio.
We had just enough probable cause in the Anthony Sanks case to arrest Nash. Just enough. It came down to Sherringhausen, what he provided to us, able to see that vehicle that was involved. We were able to say, you know, that we knew Nash had that type of vehicle. Arrest warrant was obtained on July 21st of 2021, and he was arrested at his mother's apartment.
When detectives went to speak with him, he was unwilling to give any information.
Even with 2 arrests, detectives still have work to do.
After Anthony Nash is arrested and charged with the murder of Anthony Sanks, I started to dive more into the Andrew Salazar case. If I could get closer to arresting Nash for that murder as well.
Investigators revisit a piece of evidence that had been handed over by Andrew's father. After his son's vehicle was released back to the family, Jesus Salazar found something.
And I found some keys to a vehicle in the truck. So that's what I recovered those, and I called the detective, and I told him, you know, I got these keys.
He found the key in there, didn't know whose it was or what it was for, and thought it might be important, so that's why he gave it to police. He said he also noticed in a social media photograph of Sherringhausen and Nash together that it looked like the same key that was hanging on the belt loop of Anthony Nash.
Nash had those keys that were inside my truck. I said, look, those are the same keys, keychain. So I send the picture to the detective.
It was exactly like the key that you could see in the photograph that's hanging on the belt loop of Anthony Nash.
The key was great evidence to show that he was involved.
It's good evidence, but I wanted more. So my next step was then to get phone records.
They were able to get the phone records for Anthony Nash, and they were able to determine that his phone was in the area at the time that Andrew Salazar was murdered.
At this point, after I get those phone records, now I have enough. I have enough to say that Anthony Nash was definitely involved in the murder of Andrew Salazar. So a charge was made against him in that case as well.
Investigators believe more players in the 2 killings remain unidentified. But with no witnesses and no one talking, they focus on Nash and Sherringhausen. A theory about Sherringhausen takes shape.
It was starting to feel more and more like John Sherringhausen was putting this all together, and that it was some type of a power play by him to get rid of these 2 guys so he could maybe get a bigger name for himself on the streets.
But when it comes to the second crime, investigators cannot prove his involvement.
A charge was not brought against him in the Andrew Salazar case.
Law enforcement also cannot prove that Sherringhausen fired any shots the day Anthony Sanks was killed. But prosecutors are confident they can still hold him accountable.
We relied almost exclusively on the cell phone and Facebook Messenger evidence that we had. Anything that an individual would do to promote, assist in the plan or in the carrying out of a murder makes that person just as guilty as an individual who shoots and kills.
As John Sherringhausen's trial approaches, prosecutors piece together what they believe took place the day Anthony Sanks was gunned down.
I believe that Andrew Salazar was out for revenge and talked John Sherringhausen into helping him set up Anthony Sanks to be killed. I believe that Anthony Nash drove them over there to kill Anthony Sanks. I believe that once at the location, I think that John Sheringhausen got out of the vehicle, that Anthony Sanks went to go and meet him, and then Andrew Salazar got out and began shooting, and then John Sheringhausen began shooting too.
But when Sheringhausen's trial begins in October 2021, prosecutors must stick to what they can prove.
I could not prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he was one of the shooters without any eyewitnesses, without anybody being able to say that he had told them that he had murdered the victim. However, we can prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the individual was at a very minimum a party to the murder. There was no getting out of him being present with his phone when Anthony Sanks was murdered. At the same time his phone was messaging the victim, he was also messaging a girlfriend, referencing that he was going to hit a lick. Hitting a lick either means murdering someone or robbing someone. As soon as he was done, he was gonna go over and meet her. Those messages were sent right before the murder. And so based on that information, we knew without a doubt that he was present at the murder. He aided, he planned, he assisted in this murder, and that's why he was guilty. As soon as that evidence was presented, his attorney was approaching me, telling me that his client had changed his mind. His client had decided to change his plea to guilty.
It became so damning that Mr. Sheringhausen had no choice. And that's when he, of course, changed his mind.
The judge sentenced the defendant, John Sheringhausen, to 40 years in prison for the murder of Anthony Sanks.
In February 2023, Anthony Nash accepts a deal.
I did not believe that Anthony Nash was a shooter in the Anthony Sanks murder. I believe that he was the getaway driver. Anthony Nash's vehicle was driven into and out of the parking lot, and the information from the witnesses at the scene, the shots were very quickly followed by screeching tires. So I did not believe that the person who drove the vehicle away from the scene was one of the individuals who had been out shooting. I believe that his involvement, his culpability was lesser. We offered him 20 years in prison to run concurrently on both murders. And ultimately, he accepted that instead of going to a trial.
We never were able to clearly define that, but I'm pretty satisfied with the fact that John Sheringhausen manipulated all these people, constructed this entire thing, and made it happen. And because of his actions, you know, 2 people lost their lives, 2 young people lost their lives, and 2 families were affected forever by it.
I don't think that closure exists. I think that you get to the place where you get used to it. You get to the place where you wrap your head around.
Darkness rises when a fallen angel walks in the shoes of a heartless killer. And later, sin creeps up behind a husband and wife meant to be together until death do they part.
Please find him. He killed my husband.
For Brittany Norwood, the sky's the limit growing up in a tiny Seattle, Washington suburb. Her doting parents couldn't be prouder of Brittany, one of their 9 children.
She was raised very wholesome. They all seemed they were on the same path to success.
She came from a wonderful family, a loving mom and dad. They had sons that were doctors and accountants. This was a very accomplished family.
But Brittany's athletic talent stands out in the clan, and by her senior year in high school, the soccer star is a vision of excellence.
You can do it, Brittany! She was aggressive, tenacious. She always wanted to go for number 1. She not only excelled on the field, she was a stellar student. She made great grades, and she made the score too.
Whether we are in a two-parent home or we're in the project somewhere, you get to become what you desire to become based off of your relationship with God.
At 18, the graduate books a one-way ticket to the Big Apple.
She was recruited to play soccer at a major college in Long Island and actually went there and had a very distinguished career.
But nearly 4 years into university life, the trophy winner rashly sheds her saintly wings.
In Brittany's junior year, more of her personality started being revealed and more of her inner impulses started being unleashed.
Her teammates started noticing things that were missing. I mean, they were missing their money, they were missing personal items.
As friends and players piece together that their culprits
Knoxville,
might
Tennessee
be
is
the
a town
beloved
that
Brittany,
combines the convenience of city life
it seems
with the rustic
implausible.
beauty of the rural South.
When
Underneath that
a
charm
person
lies
such
a
as
bloody
Brittany
history of
feels
turf warfare
impulsively
and gang
without
violence.
motivation for finances
2015,
or for anger
over
or
the course of
jealousy,
one night,
it's often a
a
symptom
series of
of
shootings
having
would
kleptomania.
change one
So
community
there's a thrill, there's an
forever.
excitement, there's a buildup.
The coach of the team confronted her
The city
about
of
the
Knoxville
stealing,
is a
and there was
picturesque
some discussion
southern
about whether
town
she'd be allowed to
nestled
stay on
into
the team or not
foothills
stay
of
on
the
the team.
Appalachian Mountains. Sitting
Teammates
squarely in
voted that she
America's
could
Bible
stay,
Belt,
despite the
it's a
fact that
place
she had
where
stolen
faith
from
and
them.
family traditions run deep.
Regardless of their forgiving
is
faith in
big,
her,
and,
Brittany's
everybody go to
academic
church on
future
Sunday
is sent
and
into a
hang with
death
family.
spiral.
The normal routine
College
for
did
me
not
growing up,
end well for Brittany.
you go to
She
church,
ended up
you
dropping
come
out
home
of
that Sunday
school
dinner with the family,
11
y'all
credits
sit and
shy
talk,
of
then
graduating her
later
senior
on,
year.
like, go sit on the porch and talk the rest of the evening, just like
Too
everybody
embarrassed to
stops
tell her
on Sunday.
family the truth, the 21-year-old
church
keeps
on
her
every
sins
corner.
hidden under her
And that's the
charming
way,
smile
you
when
know,
she
we
goes
was
to stay
raised-
with
we was
her
raised
older
to be
sister
Christians,
4
good
hours
God,
south of
believing
New York,
people.
in the nation's capital.
Knoxville's rich history
So
dates
here's
back to
Brittany's
the end of
chance
the
to kind
American
of start
Revolution.
anew. She doesn't tell her sister exactly everything that happened in undergrad. In fact, she tells her that she had outstanding loans, and that's the reason why she needed to relocate and start everything, you know, nice and fresh.
Sin begets sin. When you commit one sin, you commit another sin to cover up the original sin. In Brittany's case, she stole. To cover up that sin, she lied.
Without her college degree, Brittany is at a loss for what to do with her life. But she's determined not to give in to her devilish impulses.
She went from being a bank teller to a dental assistant, a hotel front desk receptionist, but nothing seemed to click.
And it's not until 5 years later that the 27-year-old finds her calling.
She was a physical fitness nut. Brittany had decided that what she actually wanted to do is become a personal trainer.
To begin that career, she then starts to think, where can I work doing that? So Georgetown is a very prestigious upscale neighborhood in Washington, D.C. So she specifically chooses to work at a high-end yoga store there to start building up her career.
The job started out great. I mean, she was the center of attention. She did an amazing job. So she was just doing old Brittany again.
Excuse me, how are you?
But several months after being hired, familiar rumors threatened to tarnish Brittany's angelic crown.
Things started turning up missing. Employees said they were missing a couple dollars here and there from their wallets.
There was only a finite number of people who had access to the area where the things were disappearing, which meant it was one of your coworkers.
And by process of elimination, managers believe they have their person of interest.
The reason why they suspected Brittany was because she was the only one on each report of when the theft occurred who was always on shift. So for every theft, Brittany was always working.
Do you think she stole it? Yes, I believe so. More than you.
But without solid proof, she remains on staff but finds it unbearable to face the scornful eyes of her coworkers. She's transferred to the Bethesda store, 5 miles north.
So you see this continual, I'm trying to escape, I'm trying to run away from the demons, I'm trying to run away from my impulses, but I can't. So I will just move and start over again and again.
Sin has the unique ability to try to take over wherever it goes. So once you start on a path of sin, it'll ultimately, if you allow it, devour you.
After 2 months at the new shop, the aspiring trainer finds out her hard work is about to pay off.
Around the corner from the athletic store in Bethesda was a very high-end gym. She had gone through a series of interviews, and she was being offered a job, which she was going to start in a week or two, around the corner, and she was going to embark on, you know, what she wanted to be, which was an athletic trainer.
I'll see you Monday. Thank you again.
But the good news is soon eclipsed by a godless night. It's just after closing time, and Brittany and her shift leader, 30-year-old Jana Murray, are about to lock up the shop for the night.
There is a policy at this athletic store. It's a bag check policy. As we're leaving the store, you check the things I'm walking out with. I check what you're walking out with, just to make sure that you're not stealing and I'm not stealing.
Jana and Brittany checked each other's bag, and that's when Jana found a pair of pants inside of Brittany's bag.
So Jana confronts Brittany, and Brittany says, "No, I bought these, but another coworker rang them up for me. I just don't have the receipt."
Aware of the accusations from the other shop, Jana suspects that Brittany is shoplifting. But with the store's computers already shut down, she can't confirm either way.
They couldn't go to the register tapes, so Jana said, look, I'll just take care of this tomorrow.
Brittany remains calm as Jana sets the alarm, and they walk in opposite directions. Brittany heads to the metro, and Jana walks to her car. But as she breathes in the chilly air, Brittany knows she's just been caught red-handed.
Every ounce of anxiety is running through Brittany at this point because she's gone through this before, and here you had it playing out again. She is terrified.
Now there was going to be a real consequence, and the consequence was going to be you're going to lose this job, and she was going to lose the opportunity to start her new career at the gym around the corner because that company was not going to hire her if she got fired for theft.
15 minutes after parting ways, Brittany decides to change her fate.
She calls Jana on the cell phone saying, "Can you please come back? I left my wallet and I can't get back into the store."
Hey, is there any way that you can come back faster? I left my wallet. Okay, all right, that's fine. All right, thank you. See you.
There, Brittany follows as Jana unlocks the door to the darkness where the shadow of death awaits.
She had so much fear of getting caught that she was willing to engage in the most heinous sin of all.
There's a chill in downtown Bethesda, Maryland, as Brittany Norwood lures her boss back to their workplace after she's been suspected of stealing merchandise.
All right, that's fine. All right, thank you.
So Jana gets there, opens the door, and then Brittany is walking behind her.
Suddenly, her thoughts and fears morph into an unstoppable rage, a darkness only the devil knows.
Brittany attacked Jana from behind. She went nuts on her.
After knocking her manager to the ground, she opens a toolbox and uses the contents to mercilessly bludgeon Jana.
She used box cutters, razor blades. She used a knife with a blade at least that long.
Jana tried to fight back. She really did with all her might, and Brittany just overpowered her. She used anything around to possibly hit her, cut her, slash her, everything. It was horrific.
If you believe in God, then there's definitely another side, which we call darkness. And that evil, once it overtakes you, person can do some things that they never thought.
After nearly 20 minutes of unrelenting torture, Jana's life is ripped from her body.
Jana clearly did not deserve this. She didn't do anything other than her job and what was also in the policy procedures manual of checking bags.
If you kill someone, there is nothing that you can do in order to bring the person back. To kill is to actually destroy in someone else a piece of that image and likeness of God.
But the night is far from over for the killer, with 11 hours left until the next employee comes to open the store.
She went and she moved Jana's car. She came back in the store. She made the scene seem like they had been attacked.
She stages a scene of a struggle. She uses two separate pairs of shoes where she puts the shoes on. walks in Jana's blood and then makes footprints all around the establishment, then washes the shoes off and puts them back into a display case to make it look like they were never involved.
Then to make the story even more horrific, what Brittany decides to do is to then cut her own pants as if an actual rape had occurred. And then she also tried to cut the pants off of Jana.
And finally, she arranges the finishing touches on Satan's stage.
She hurt herself. She took literally box cutters and just cut herself up and bludgeoned herself up to make it like she herself was a victim of an attack at the store.
The sin itself of killing is wrong, and covering up the sin is wrong, because that usually involves lying. That usually involves creating a scenario in which you deflect the guilt from yourself.
In her final act of deceit, she zip ties her hands and feet together and places herself a few feet away from Jana's lifeless body, where she remains for the next 10 hours. As the sun rises on the shop the next morning, the 29-year-old manager Amanda Marin is about to discover hell on earth.
She was immediately alarmed because when she went to open the door was open. She pushed the door open, she looks in, clothing items are strewn all over the place, some of the racks are thrown on the floor. She's terrified.
What she did not expect was to then see this horrible murder scene, blood spattered everywhere, a mutilated body laying there, and then she also sees Brittany, who's being tied up in a pool of blood. So she's fearing for her own life at this point and runs out of the store to call 911.
Montgomery County 911, what is the emergency? There's 2 people in the back of my store. One person seems dead and the other person is breathing.
First responders quickly arrive and survey the scene.
We had a woman that was inside of this athletic store who had been brutally murdered.
When they get to Brittany, she is completely still, eyes are closed, never opens them. She just cracks open her mouth and has a gasp of air come out. They know she's alive, they rush her to the hospital.
Doctors and police think it's a blessing that Brittany not only survived, but she has nothing more than a few shallow wounds that will need stitches. Detectives are desperate to get a lead on their suspects and are permitted to question her within moments of arriving at the hospital.
Brittany told the officers that 2 men, one about 6 feet tall, another one that's like about 5'3", had attacked them, and that she couldn't tell them what ethnicity or race they were because they had these hoodies that were pulled over their faces.
That's when he got a hold of my hair and like yanked me back by my hair.
She also claimed that she was sexually assaulted with a hanger and that she could hear in the back that they were also assaulting Jana after they left assaulting her.
There was so much blood, and all I could think was it was my fault because I forgot my wallet and couldn't help her. Just telling you to shut up or he'll kill me.
Police believe Brittany's horrific tale as they immediately begin their hunt for the heartless killers. The next day, whispers of the deadly attack pollutes the air, leaving the Maryland suburb on edge.
Now Brittany's the victim. Everybody is sad and hurting for her and hoping that we find whoever did this to both Brittany and Jana.
We thought 2 wonderful young women had been attacked by 2 unknown assailants, 2 boogeymen. And let me tell you, in Bethesda, in this neighborhood, that was a terrifying story.
Brittany's family is anxious to get her home safe after a thorough physical examination.
Eventually, Brittany is discharged. She goes home. She sees all the media coverage that they're showing on her, also showing the great life of her co-worker, Jana. Lo and behold, they also find surveillance footage of 2 men fitting the description of Brittany's accusation.
Brittany's watching the news and she sees surveillance video of 2 guys that are walking outside of the store. And it was at the same time that the crime happened. The surveillance video footage seemed to verify everything that Brittany just said.
The 27-year-old thinks she's gotten away with the ultimate sin. But her divine luck is about to run out.
She didn't know that Jana had already called corporate that night.
The lies grew into a totally different demon that ended up possessing her in the end.
And later, Donna Munda and Damian Bradford can't keep their hands off the forbidden fruit until their sinful lies land them in the middle of a deadly scandal.
When Donna pulls over, a man in all black gets out of the car, walks up to Gulam, and puts a 9mm in his face.
Any woman grieving would have found it difficult to be with another man. Not Donna. She just went after the lust.
On the night of the attack, 2 employees in an adjoining store heard the commotion but never called 911.
They are standing inside of their establishment but can hear the attack occurring next door. They make out 2 women's voices, hear a woman pleading, "Stop, why are you doing this to me?" They thought this is just a big to-do about 2 women, a fuss between 2 girls. I'm not going to get involved in this.
Nearly 24 hours after murdering her coworker in the prominent D.C. suburb of Bethesda, Maryland, Brittany Norwood has police in the palm of her hands.
Tell what race they were.
There was 2 guys.
She told the police about the boogeymen that followed them back into the store.
The surveillance video footage seemed to verify everything that Brittany just said. Both of these guys are behind the store around 11 o'clock, and it just puts them right at the scene of the crime at the perfect time.
In an attempt to maintain her own name, she was willing to have someone else pay the price for the horrible crime that she committed.
After numerous tips rush in from restless locals, investigators quickly identify the mysterious men in black.
They were 2 gentlemen who worked at the next door restaurant, who had gotten off their shift, who washed dishes there. They had nothing to do with it.
These guys in the video had airtight alibis as to where they were, so police start looking for another answer as to what possibly happened at that store that night.
The perplexing coincidence sends police back to square one, but not for long. 2 days after the murder, Brittany's medical exam comes in, and what they find tarnishes her saintly glow.
She told the investigators that there had been objects inserted into her. She showed us what those objects were. Upon examination at the hospital, she had no internal injuries.
And the wounds she does have are in stark contrast to the overkill her manager suffered.
And imagine they see one person who's mutilated beyond belief. There were 330 wounds that were on Jada. And then you have someone else who has superficial wounds, only a little bit of blood, and their hands are tied with zip ties above their head.
Her initial story began to fall apart because of her own inconsistencies, because of the information. Every single piece of forensic evidence that was gathered in this case made her story less credible, incredible, or more precisely, made it out to be an entire lie.
But it's Jana's own actions that break open the floodgate.
When police interviewed a store manager, that's when they find out that Jana had called the store manager to report Brittany possibly shoplifting from the store.
Bag check, and I saw that Brittany had a pair of pants.
Phone records indicate it was just minutes after she'd already left the store before returning under Brittany's ruse. As police begin to telescope in on Brittany, they find one final piece of the puzzle. Jana's abandoned car is recovered in a parking lot near the crime scene.
They see that there were blood stains there, and other than Jana's DNA, Brittany's DNA was there. But Brittany never mentioned this until after they came back to question her again.
But when detectives reveal they found her blood in the vehicle, she panics.
All of a sudden, she says, by the way, I need to tell you something. I've lied to you about something very, very critical.
Prior to him sexually assaulting me and zip tying me, they made me move her car.
At some point in time, these men let me leave, told me and directed me to move Jana's car, and told me that if I came back and I spoke to anybody along the way, they had my address, they were going to find me, and they were going to kill me.
This is completely implausible because why would a perpetrator who was able to create such a vicious crime allow you to go get into a car where you could possibly flee to safety?
Brittany's sudden change in the story affirms suspicions that the murderer is in the room with them. The shocking turn of events blindsides everyone as the alleged survivor of the brutal assault is arrested and charged with first-degree murder 7 days after the death of 30-year-old Jana Murray. 7 months later, in trial, Brittany refuses to take the stand while her lawyers attempt to decrease her possible life sentence.
The defense stood up and said, basically, she did it. She did it, but it wasn't premeditated. And if she was guilty of anything, she was guilty of either manslaughter or second-degree murder.
But forensic evidence holds up strongly against her in front of the jury. Brittany Norwood is convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
She is going to die in prison. It's almost hard to believe that anybody, or fathom that anybody would act in this fashion for something as de minimis as this.
We start off with something that seems small, and it ends up in such a horrific action. So there's a saying, which is, if you lie, you'll steal, and if you steal, you'll kill.
Though justice is served in a court of law, nothing can bring back the angel that heaven gained that fateful night.
I think the world is robbed of a lovely, extraordinary 30-year-old woman who was gifted and intelligent and made great contributions to her community and family. Just an extraordinary young woman of great renown. We've lost her.
Next, when Donna Munda and Damian Bradford cross paths, they'll summon hell on earth to reach fulfillment. The last place 47-year-old Donna Munda ever imagined she'd be is in a drug rehab meeting describing the past 20 years of her life to complete strangers.
I grew up right down the road from here. Seemed like a lifetime ago.
The girl next door grows up under God-fearing parents in Hermitage, Pennsylvania.
They attended church weekly. She had a spiritual background, which was grounded in Christianity faith.
Growing up in a Christian home, her fundamental values should reflect integrity, so her foundation was established.
Throughout high school, the popular cheerleader holds close her deep-rooted morals and graduates with a dream to become a nurse. But without money for college, she settles for a job as a receptionist. And as if by divine intervention, she meets 45-year-old Ghulam Munda.
A chance
Ghulam was a urologist and had a very successful practice. Theirs was a mutual attraction, her to him being an older man that was able to supply what she thought would be the answer to all her prayers as far as having money.
Ghulam said that he would take care of her. Her needs would be met, and that she'd be able to return back to school.
The good doctor delivers on his promise, and after several years of dating, Donna becomes a licensed nurse with a full-time job waiting for her in Ghulam's office. To celebrate, the match made in heaven take their vows.
The marriage was glamorous. Donna was being taken care of.
But a few years into married life, the now 33-year-old Donna is sorely disappointed with the reality of her husband's expectations of her.
She came home after work, after working as a nurse. She was still expected to do all of those typical duties of making sure that dinner was on the table and the house was kept immaculate.
Over time, she started to resent him. She felt that possibly that she was lied to. And I believe because of her Christian upbringing, she probably didn't want to divorce him.
The Bible teaches us that God does not honor divorce. I'm going to be an embarrassment to my family. I'm going to be an embarrassment at church.
Donna decides to hide her gloom under a perfect wife exterior. They entertain guests, take lavish vacations, and are the envy of their friends and neighbors. To break up the monotony, she stops working for her husband and takes an RN job at their local hospital. But her secret to keeping her emotions at bay for 6 years and counting is the very demon she can't seem to shake.
She turned to drugs, and she became addicted to a very strong painkiller, fentanyl.
These were medications that she obtained from her husband's place of work, as well as her own place of work.
After years of over-ordering at the hospital to keep herself supplied, her world comes crashing down. Donna is caught stealing and fired from her job.
You're in big trouble now.
The Nurse Hopes group will be her saving grace.
Hi, I'm Donna.
But it will be the very place that ignites her inner fire, leading her through a destructive path filled with forbidden temptations she can't resist.
In rehab, they locked eyes. They were flirtatious. They truly hit it off.
And this unholy union will be consecrated in blood. In Hermitage, Pennsylvania, after Nurse Donna Munda is caught for stealing painkillers to ease the distress of her unhappy marriage, she uses her 12-step program as a confession booth. And no one is more interested in her life story than fellow group member Damian Bradford, who has his own crosses to bear. There's not a dare too dangerous for the 22-year-old as he charges through life in the fast lane.
Damian was an engaging young man. He was an extrovert. In his neighborhood, he was known as Chaos because he was a hellraiser.
Despite his cash-only business, the charmer's good looks and fresh swag never fails to turn a female head, even though he's about to be taken off the market by 22-year-old Maya Green.
He was engaged to a young woman around his same age, and she was head over heels in love with him.
But she grows tired of losing Damian to jail stints. So when he's busted for drug possession, he polishes his rusty halo for the court.
He represented himself in court as someone who was able to be rehabbed. He portrayed himself as a person who could do better, would do better, and so the judge was lenient.
Damian's punishment for drug possession was to go to rehab, the same rehab where he ended up meeting Donna.
With their life stories on the table, Damian introduces himself to the seemingly untouchable new member of the group.
Hi, I'm Donna.
And even though her wedding ring is in clear sight, it only sweetens the forbidden fruit.
When Damian met Donna, he was captivated by her. She was older, she was poised, she was elegant, and in many ways, she presented a challenge to Damian because he always liked trying to achieve the unattainable.
Donna and Damian hit it off immediately in rehab. There was innocent flirting over the weeks, and that flirting absolutely swelled into sexual tension.
Their playful game of cat and mouse finally comes to an end one night, and the unlikely pair can't keep their hands off each other.
They ended up going to a motel where they were able to act out the sexual fantasies that they had been dreaming about all of this time.
Adultery is the separation of a couple who have pledged before God to spend their lives together until death.
But Judgment Day is a distant thought in their minds, as the frustration of being apart pulls them back together every chance they get. Within weeks, Donna becomes overly attentive to assure her new addiction isn't taken away.
She was in her prime time as if she was a teenager in love, sneaking around behind her husband's back, having sexual encounters with this younger man who found her attractive.
While Donna's husband remains blissfully in the dark on her secret life, Damian's betrothed knows better.
Initially, his fiance became suspicious because Damian was bringing home all sorts of new things and spending a great deal of time away from her.
So she went through Damian's phone and she found text messages from Donna.
Maya is furious after reading their explicit exchange and confronts Damian, who provides no explanation. In a fit of rage, Maya looks up his mistress online and finds out she's married to a well-known local doctor.
She tracked down Ghulam and made sure she told him all the details of what was going on between her fiancé and his wife.
Ghulam was besides himself. He was embarrassed. A prominent urologist finding out that your wife is cheating on you with a man that's younger? He decided he wanted out, but he wanted out quietly.
Devastated, Ghulam approaches Donna with a peaceful offer, $1 million to divorce him without court proceedings. Even though his offer is 4 times more than their prenuptial agreement entitles her, she refuses.
That's all I want.
She said that she would break up the relationship and that they would go to counseling to help repair whatever hurts and wounds that this extra relationship had caused.
For some people, because divorce is not an option for them, death is an option because they have pledged in a covenantal relationship to stay with their spouse until death parts them.
Immediately, Donna tells her man on the side that she promised her husband they would break it off. But he's anything but understanding.
Damien felt like Donna was crazy for not taking the money. He wanted her to take the money and thought that they could use it to be together.
Believe this, baby. You didn't take the money.
This is the best way for it to work out. I can't do this.
The pair decided to go their separate ways for now.
But soon, fate will bring them back together. On a pitch-black night, Donna, her mother, and Ghulam take a 4-hour drive to visit his nephew for the weekend in Ohio.
Donna was driving, and she felt tired, told her husband she was tired, and asked her husband to take the wheel.
Am I taking over?
Yes, I can do that, sweetie.
She pulled off to the side, and they decided to get out of the car and switch.
Suddenly, they're blinded by headlights from a vehicle pulling up behind them.
A man in all black gets out of the car, walks up to Ghulam, and puts a 9mm in his face.
Give me your wallet.
Ghulam did not put up a fight.
Give me your wallet.
He did not hesitate.
All right.
He handed over his wallet thick with $50 bills.
A second later, a man heartlessly shoots Ghulam in the head.
Donna saw the entire ordeal. Her mother was still sitting in the back of the car, oblivious to what was going on.
Then, the demonic figure runs to his car, disappearing in the night. But Donna's brush with the devil is only the beginning of the scandal to come. Donna and Ghulam Munda pull off the highway to switch drivers when out of nowhere, Ghulam is gunned down.
Immediately after the shooting, Donna called 911 to tell them what happened. She told them her husband had been shot, that they needed help, and that he still had a pulse.
The nurse administers CPR on her husband until the ambulance takes him away. But it's in God's hands now.
Unfortunately, Ghulam died on the way to the hospital.
Now a homicide case, police stay with the widow and her mother, taking down every possible detail.
She knew that the shooter was a man dressed all in black, he was short, and driving a van.
Donna's mother does corroborate her daughter's story, but she was also not in a position to see much that night.
When asked if anyone would have any motive to kill her husband, she presents a theory.
She believed that possibly during one of the pit stops, someone possibly saw him pull out the wad of money, and then they were a target from that point on.
While Donna and her mother go back home, police take her lead seriously and immediately request surveillance tapes from the shop they went to. The next day, Donna receives word that the footage produced no leads, prompting her to take action.
Donna remained very proactive publicly after her husband's murder. She appeared on local news, and she asked anyone with information to please come forward.
That night, Donna leaves the press conference as a widow in mourning and goes home to a drastically new life.
Behind closed doors, she was content, happy, and living her dream.
They spend the weekend together where they indulge their cravings for sex and their newfound freedom.
There's a scripture that says love covers a multitude of sin. You can love something so much that you don't even see the sin in it.
As they shut the world out, the adulterers are chillingly happy and plan their future. Meanwhile, investigators are at a dead end with the case until a fruitful lead comes in.
Following the murder, the police get an anonymous tip about Damian Bradford. The tip tells them to look into him because he's been having an affair for months.
Police take the lead and run with it until a miraculous discovery exposes the real evil behind Ghulam's killer.
I think we got it.
Soon after her affair heated up, Donna treated her man on the side like a king.
Donna gave Damian money, gifts, she got a car for him, and even got him an apartment.
A week after Donna Munda's husband is killed in cold blood, her lover's fiancé begrudgingly tells police that the weeping widow has been having an affair for several months with 22-year-old Damian Bradford.
The police believe the tip, and they immediately follow up and begin investigating Donna and Damian.
After talking to members of their mutual drug rehab group, investigators learn the two are visibly close. And interviews with her late husband's grieving family lets even more light in.
Police learned that Ghulam knew about the affair, and he offered Donna $1 million, which she refused.
Then, fragments of the truth are unearthed when a divine discovery lands in their lap.
Between two old friends.
Police got their hands on Ghulam's last will and testament.
I was
It
kind of
showed
happy
that
to see
if
her
he died,
finally
she would get $3
take it
million
off with somebody.
and his estate.
Offers a second chance.
This was
at
extremely
love.
important
Francois was the man
because
of Rosemary
it suggests that
and Blade's
Donna
dreams.
would
A
receive
perfect
more
partner.
upon Ghulam's death than by divorcing him.
Without hard evidence to bring their suspects in, police request their cell phone records.
They found text messages confirming that the two were intimate and having a relationship with one another.
There was nothing specific about Ghulam. Damian's last text to Donna was for her to call when she got back in town.
But that doesn't mean they're in the clear.
The next step for the police was to put in an order for the cell tower locations for Damian's cell phone so they could see exactly where he was on that Friday the 13th.
When the cell phone records came in, it showed that Damian was in Ohio at the right time when the murder happened.
Search warrant in hand, detectives show up at Damian's house to arrest him.
When the police interviewed Damian, he did tell the truth about the affair, but insisted that he had nothing to do with the murder.
He maintains his innocence. Prosecutors prepare the case against him, but Damian is confident he will be let go once Donna tells police that the real killer was a foot shorter than him. But as he continues to maintain his innocence, the woman he's counting on refuses to appear in court on his behalf.
The walls were closing in on her, and when push came to shove, all that she cared about was herself.
When Damian found out that Donna was not supporting him, he was crushed. He learned that she was pleading the fifth on describing who the killer was.
Facing the death penalty, Damian sees the light right before Judgment Day in court. He makes a deal with prosecutors to reveal that his mistress is the mastermind behind Ghulam's death.
I had nothing to do with this.
Donna convinced Damian that if he killed Ghulam, she would take care of him forever. She dreamed up the plan about the road trip and saw it all the way through till the death of her husband.
The text messages revealed that this was just a back and forth code, letting each other know when they're nearing the kill spot.
Donna Munda is arrested and charged with murder for hire. She continues to maintain her innocence as she's convicted and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The judge takes mercy on Damian after he testifies against Donna in court.
In Damian's plea deal, he received 17 and a half years in prison. He'll be out before he's 40.
Despite the blood on both of their hands, Damian takes responsibility and seeks forgiveness.
If I could take back what happened, I would, 1,000,000 times over.
And though the sinner loses in the end, the innocent sees no triumph.
Everyone suffered. Ghulam, his family, Donna, her family, Damian, his fiance, they all lost as part of this game. For Donna, I just feel sad for her. Knowing that she was raised in an upbringing and she left that astray, again for money. I'm sad for both of them. Greed killed.
him.